speaker.
All right, everybody, if we could get started, if you could gather around close to the bench. Sue Fritz, Sue Tallman. All right, let's get started. For those who don't know me, I'm Steve Lehman, the current chair of the Conservation Commission, and I'm one of many who over the years have come and gone from the commission during Bob's 32 years of service. He was the backbone of the commission and was invaluable to new members, sharing his knowledge of the town and its conserved properties, his wisdom, and the example that he set for all of us with his integrity and his modesty. And I think that of all the words that come to mind when thinking about Bob, modesty is probably one that pops into all of our minds. Bob was very modest, and an example of that is that his wife Laura told me that Bob would have hated today's event and the attention that came with it. But Bob, too bad, you've got it coming today. So before we get to the unveiling of the plaque to honor Bob, I want to thank some of the many people who made this possible, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting someone, and if I have forgotten someone, forgotten you, please excuse me. But this all began, wouldn't have been possible, sort of like the Olympic torch being carried along and passed from one person to another, but this all started, Erhard Frost was the first one to carry the torch. And Erhard found Bruno Menard, who had this beautiful black locust wood. And when Bruno found out the purpose of the wood, he was happy to donate it, which we all appreciate, just extraordinary. Erhard also found Mark Charles, who is here today. And Mark was the woodwright who built this truly unique bench. And Bob would have been very pleased to see how it turned out. And then Jason Barrard of the Upper Valley Land Trust and formerly of the Conservation Commission stepped in and found the plaque maker in Concord, Greg Schlosser of Seymour Trophy Company in Concord. And he arranged for the plaque. And then Natty Cook saw to it that the bench made it to its proper spot and was leveled with just the right view. And then for the inscription to the plaque, Laura Pulaski, Jeannie McIntyre of the Upper Valley Land Trust, Jason, formerly of the Conservation Commission and currently with the Upper Valley Land Trust, and Connie Snyder collaborated on the inscription. Connie bringing her usual grace and eloquence to this project, as we've all seen for so many years. And then Jim Mccracken of the Conservation Commission. Today, I think Jim is the current backbone, as Bob was for so many years. Jim, I think, is the current backbone of the commission. Many of you know Jim from the many public activities that he has planned and run very smoothly, including today. Whether it's a Green Up Day or arranging for expert speakers for the public or the film festival in the winter that unfortunately because of COVID we weren't able to have this year. Jim shares Bob's modesty, if not his tenure. And I think that Bob was like Joe DiMaggio of the Conservation Commission world, with the record that he set in 1941 with a 56-game hitting streak. 80 years later, no one has come close to setting that. And so, Jim, by my count, you have about 27 more years to go. to tie Bob, and I think his record's probably going to be safe, but you never know. And then last, we'd all like to thank the generous financial donors to this project who made it possible. And not only did this project get completed because of that, but the generosity was so large that there are substantial funds left over that will be held in the Conservation Trust Fund of the town of Thetford. And those monies will be used for future acquisition of conserved properties. And Bob would have been very proud of that. So there are a few people who have planned remarks for today. And we hope that after that, many of you will step forward with remembrances of Bob. But it seems fitting that we start today with thoughts by Bob's granddaughters, Jordan and Bianca. So if you could come forward and start us off. Why don't you both come up together? Okay, here you go.
Hi, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Jordan.
I don't think that's on.
Is it? Oh, I wasn't very close. Sorry. I'm Jordan. Some people live once and spend the rest of their lives talking about it. Some people live twice and write a novel. Robert Pulaski lived for as long as he was alive. He lives today and yesterday for as long as we remember it. Robert Pulaski saw the earth as a pomegranate. You have to dig hard to get to the fruits beneath the surface, and he spared no detail. Robert Pulaski and Laura Pulaski, the beholder of his heart, and woman he loved the most, accepted me with loving arms as their granddaughter, no questions asked, since the first day I met them. Like the land, they cultivated, watered, and cared for me. They raised me to be one with nature and the world, even if I am scared of spiders. When I was a girl, Papa taught me to give back to the earth. What is a body of land without love, or a body of water without water? One year when it was snowing, Papa took me down to the pond and explained to me that life was a circle. It is a never-ending circle, and it comes back, or at least that is what he chose to tell a 7-year-old in answer to her question about why all the fish were sleeping under the ice. I think I was so upset that Papa just ended up letting me leave fish food out in case one of the fish woke up and got hungry. And I spent the last summer and the summer before that feeding those fish. Growing up, I always thought Papa was the Lorax. He loved trees and the earth, and even when I was 7, he was not afraid to curse out anyone who polluted his paradise. Some people live once, some of them twice, and some people write novels telling you how much they lived, but our Papa, Robert Pulaski, didn't tell us how much he lived because he never had the time. He was always too busy doing it. Thank you. I'm going to hand my sister.
Okay. My grandfather was a smart man, and he would always tell me about nature. Almost every time I saw him, he was taking care of the land, and even the last time I was with him, we spent hours outside talking while trimming tent caterpillar nests off the trees. And he told me how he looked forward to spending the next 10 years of his life making the fields beautiful. And I think his dedication to the land is truly inspiring. And even in the end, he was doing what he loved. Pustinia, a cabin where one can come to pray and be at peace. A desert, not because it is barren, but because it is open and can produce abundant fruit when water is poured. Robert and his wife, my grandmother Laura, are what it makes their home such a place. Even though his mind isn't with us, his body and soul continues in the form of the land, and he has become part with the wind, the rain, the sun, and whole with the trees. Oftentimes I find myself speaking to him through the wind, and when I think of him, I am reminded of a tall, strong, and wise oak tree, because I think he was defined by these characteristics. And I'm now going to read a poem by Mary Oliver, When I Am Among the Trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I'm so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say. And you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next is Anne Lavanway, who preceded me as chair of the commission and who worked with Bob for many years.
First of all, can you hear me okay? Yes. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who made this possible and gave me the opportunity to speak.
Just closer.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I want to say thank you to the Thetford Conservation Commission and to the Pulaski family for giving me the opportunity to say a few words about Bob Pulaski. I met Bob when I joined the Conservation Commission, and I enjoyed working with him for several years. I was a member of the commission for 32 years, as Steve mentioned, but he was a steward of Thetford's resources for even longer than that. Bob rarely missed a meeting, so this was a big deal. We met a lot, and he was always prepared, and he was always carrying this binder, this notebook, right? But this notebook was remarkable because Steve was also the treasurer for most of the time, if not all the time, he was on the commission. But it didn't just carry the details about the budgets and things like that. It had this very carefully curated record of the activities of the Conservation Commission for years. And it was a tremendous resource for us. Bob had a remarkable memory, and he could remember the most incredible details about things. And then he would go to his notebook and he'd pull out a document to show the details of which he was speaking and shared it with the rest of us. But when you first join a commission, and even if you're on it for more than 10 years, you still have a lot to learn about the history. And so it was wonderful that he always had that available, and he had his brilliant mind available, and he shared all of that with us. Sorry, bear with me. I wanted to mention that I never saw Bob tire or become impatient, even when meetings ran really long, and the commission members know what I mean. And we discussed things again and again and again. And he was always very quick with a smile and a clever comment to add levity. Bob was a generous listener, and whatever he had to add to the discussion was always thoughtful and well-informed and balanced. And that always really impressed me. When I was chair of the commission, I relied on Bob for many things, including details about budgets, how to use funds, the knowledge he had about how conservation commissions were governed in the state of Vermont. And then I heavily relied on his good instincts and his integrity always. It was because of Bob's guidance and his insights that the natural resources inventory, which to me was a very big deal, became a reality for the first time in the town of Thetford. So, sorry, flip over. You know, where's PowerPoint when you need it, right? But Bob didn't limit his commitment to conservation and stewardship to the regular meetings at Town Hall. Bob continued to attend meetings, local meetings, with Upper Valley Land Trust and other organizations, and go to workshops, attended these things statewide, and then would come back to the commission and share his findings, which was a great service to all of us, especially those people who couldn't necessarily break away and make it to the meeting. So that was really impressive. And work on the Conservation Commission often requires work on other projects. And Bob was always there, you know, whether it was cutting alders at PMNA, or removing white pines at the Hughes Forest, or all of the work that he did here at Zebedee. Bob always showed up, and he went quietly about getting the work done. I admired Bob for a lot of things, but I really admired his ability to talk with anyone. His kindness was always evident, and I think that put people at ease, and they would talk to him even if it was a difficult subject. I saw Bob many times use this gift to find common ground and to sort of move discussions that we were having at the commission forward in a very positive way, with an better understanding of the community and the goals of the community. So I will miss Bob. I do miss Bob. And I think he was a great treasure for the town of Thetford and a dear friend. And I am really grateful to everyone who made this possible. Thank you.
Jeannie McIntyre of the Upper Valley Land Trust. Oh.
That I can welcome all of you to this place to gather here is due to many of you who, like Bob and with Bob, chose to conserve this place. So it'd be a place of quiet and life and a gathering place. These last few days, I've been thinking about how places hold memories, and more the very essences of people, and how maybe on paper the Upper Valley Land Trust owns Zebedee Wetland, but actually each of us belongs to it. And when you belong to a place, you also belong to the people who belong to it. And you belong to all the people who have ever belonged to it. It's a kind of a melding of humanness and nature, transcendent and timeless, intimate, infinite community. Bob Pulaski served on the board of the Upper Valley Land Trust and was our treasurer, bringing all the qualities to that service that Anna has described him bringing to the Conservation Commission. His qualifications were outstanding, of course, but Bob never put the spotlight on himself or the importance of his role. He was just a rock, warm, strong, quiet, joy and humor bubbling inside, utterly, utterly giving, and amazingly kind rock. His handiwork was so good that you almost didn't see it, but it was always there when you needed it, and you could count on it. There was a morning that I spent with Bob and Charles Hughes, January 1988, sitting at Mr. Hughes's table, that I will never forget. Bob's gentleness, his astute questions, Mr. Hughes was 98, very, very hard of hearing, and nearly blind. He was rethinking his estate planning, maybe changing his will to give or bequeath property to the town for conservation. Afterward, Bob told me that he had not had this kind of conversation before and he'd been unsure of himself. But what came through was steady and just totally trustworthy. Mr. Hughes said before he gave away the land, he wanted to spend one more summer out in his old farmhouse on Poor Farm Road. It was primitive, on an unmaintained road with no plumbing, and I don't think it had power either. But there was a meadow outside, and apple trees, and maples, and a beaver pond. Of course you do, said Bob, of course. And so we drank a glass of water, and we looked out the windows at the winter in Thetford Center Village, and 3 of us imagined the summer coming. And a few weeks later, Bob led a group of us on a cross-country ski trip out through Mr. Hughes's woods. I am just so truly grateful to belong to a community that Bob shaped, and to feel his love in places like Zebedee and the Hughes Forest, and to know his essence here, now, in this place. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Barrard. I'm a former member of the Conservation Commission, and I work at Upper Valley Land Trust. And I'm here to read the inscription on the plaque. Heinz, maybe if you could remove my jacket over the rock right there. Got to take my glasses off for this. In memory of Robert J. Pulaski, 1945 to 2020. Faithful steward of Thetford's natural places, a gentle, quietly determined man who loved the land. Bob helped build the Linny Levin Trail and took pleasure knowing it is enjoyed as an outdoor classroom for students of all ages. He was a trustee for the Upper Valley Land Trust and served on the Thetford Conservation Commission for over 3 decades, giving generously of his time, talents, and energy towards preservation of our forests, wetlands, fields, and villages. His example is a beacon for us all. I thought I would also just share a remembrance, maybe 2 actually. First off, what Anne was saying about the binder. This binder, I mean, it had to be like a 5-inch binder. And he brought it to every meeting, and his hands would always sit on top of the binder. And the minute a topic came up that needed the binder, Bob's hands would get very animated. He would start sort of moving around. And the thing is, I don't think he actually needed the binder. You know, he had it all up here. It's really all of us who are following in Bob's footsteps that will be so grateful to have that binder. The other remembrance is from Ted Levin. Ted couldn't be here today, but he wanted to share that after Linny passed away and gifts were made in her honor to establish a trail in her name, that it was Bob whose steadfast assistance in writing all of the thank you letters sort of got him through that moment. And it wasn't a moment, it took months, because that's how many people gave for the trail. So, you know, just another example of Bob's steadfast kindness. And anyone else who has remembrances, feel free to come up. I'm sure there are plenty.
Let me take it. I'm pretty much a newcomer to this area. We moved here in '92, so it's almost 30 years. And when we came here, what do we know about the area? Zebedee, of course, the swamps were here all the time, but not the trails. And over the years, we learned so much about the trails here, and we met people, and one of them was Bob. From Bob, I bought my DR mower, which is still in good use. It's about 40 years or 50 years old, never fails, sometimes badly starts. It's a pity I can't take it out here. This area is not really good for a DR mower. You'd rather have a weed whacker. Inge and I, we do some trail maintenance here on the trail. It's a pleasure to see so many people here. Of course, when you're out there and you do your trail work, you don't see anybody. The only thing is you see the little signs made by the kids in the schools. And what I would like to say is it's a pity we don't see more kids here in this group. And I really want to plead to every one of you, we're getting old. We need our kids to take over. Bring them out here. It's a beautiful trail, and we couldn't do anything better than maintaining the trail and maintaining the memory of guys like Bob Pulaski that helped building this trail. So bring the kids, bring the camp kids, and nice of you all to be here. Thank you.
Can I hand it off to anyone else?
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Lee Shen, and I was the chair of the Conservation Commission for quite a few years before I was scooped up by the Select Board and Anne took over. I can't add much to what's already been said about Bob. I think so much of it was so deeply felt and so accurate in every way. I just wanted to add one incident that maybe sticks out in my mind. There was a time when the Conservation Commission did these events called Sunday strolls, where somebody would pick out an area. I think we did one in the Hughes Forest, various places, and Bob said, I'll do one on my land. So we, people showed up and we followed him, and he showed us his forestry work. And like this area I'm improving, and I've allowed the yellow birch to grow, and he knew that land by the back of his hand. But the highlight for me was he very proudly led us to this place where there was this gigantic maple tree. It's huge, three people could probably together not put their arms around. And I remember, I think Jason and some other of you with a tape measure went round and measured it, and it was just the pride he had in that tree, and having to bring it back, because I think it was in poor shape when he got the land, and he kind of helped it to keep going and restore itself, was just emblematic of who he was. And in a way, he's just like that tree too. So that's my little story, and I'll hand it off.
I would just like to thank, I'd like to thank everyone involved with the bench and the Conservation Commission and all the ladies and the people that drove Bob to the meetings, because he had bilateral retinal detachments and couldn't drive at night, and he depended upon so many of the people from the Conservation Commission that would pick him up, take him to the meeting and drive him home. And it was great because I used to go to bed at 8:30 and so it would really infringe on my sleep to wait till the meetings were over. Thank you all.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah. I'm on the Conservation Commission, and I just felt compelled to stand up because of what Heinz said about the next generation. I come out here with my kids all the time, and it's awesome. And thank you, and thank Bob, and thank all of you guys for protecting this place, creating the trail, making it a space for the school kids to be able to still come out. I don't think they do quite as much, but COVID has thrown a whole wrench in education right now, but it's here for when they can come back out and on their own. It's just as special. And I know Bob's legacy is throughout the town and throughout the whole Upper Valley community. So it's more of a general statement. And I was lucky to be serving with Bob in the last couple of years that he served on the Conservation Commission. So yeah, it's really amazing. And I could probably pull up, I take too many pictures of my kids, but hundreds of pictures of them looking out over the wetlands, and we try and sneak up so that we might actually see some birds, but kids are not particularly quiet when they approach the wetland, but they're always excited. So this is how we foster that generation and the love of places like this.
I'm Sally Eshelman, and I really didn't know this aspect of Bob Pulaski. I've known him for many years, but mainly I knew him as Steve and Greg's dad, because I used to teach years ago at the elementary school. So I also know these wetlands as the pond that was here that I used to bring my kids to in the 80s. That was before there were any trails, and it was wonderful then. But Heinz, I bring my grandkids here a lot. and we love it. We really do love it. And it's wonderful to know that, well, I used to know Bob too, because I'd see him around town and say hello to him. And he would always be friendly and we'd always have a nice conversation. But it's really nice to know that when I come to the wetland now, you know, I'll be able to visit him here too. It's very special. Thanks.
No one else? Last chance? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And again, there are refreshments up on the road, so please grab something for the road. Thanks again.